Hi, this is Sweet June 2010. How's everybody doing this evening? I'm doing part two to my stereotype, talking about stereotypes. And as I was saying, you can't just throw a stat out there without having the facts. You're just basing it on your emotions, on how you feel about that segment of the population. That's not logical and it doesn't make any sense. So, um, stereotypes are it's like all the cops running around here shooting black people, killing black men and black women and children. That's when stereotypes become very deadly. That's when they become deadly, and because they have this perception in their head that all black people are violent, all black people are criminals, all black people are dangerous. They have this perception in their head. And because they have this perception in their head, then they automatically assume that when they come across and stop a black person, that black person's got a weapon and all that kind of stuff. And then with the police shootings that's taking place, they're going to be stereotyping even more. So it's very detrimental, you know. The stereotypes are very detrimental. And it just doesn't make any sense. Stereotypes are very stupid. They're based on ignorance. Um, and what gets me is that a lot of black men stereotype black women. They come on YouTube and they have all these stereotypes about black women and generalizations about black women. But then when the shoe is on the other foot, they don't like to be stereotyped. They hate that when the cops type them, or when white people stereotype them, they don't like it. But then why do they think it's okay to stereotype black women? They don't like to be stereotyped. They don't like to be profiled and stereotyped by the police, and the media and society. But they want to turn around and stereotype black women. See, it doesn't make any sense. See, they want to, like I say, they can dish it out, but they can't take it. You know, how do you think that black women feel about those stereotypes? Because not all black women fit into those categories. How do you think black women feel about that? Does black women feel the same way you feel when you're being stereotyped? Black women feel about stereotypes the same way you guys feel when you're being stereotyped by the media, society, and the police. We feel the same way you do. We don't like it. We're humiliated. We're upset about it. We want to be judged according to the content of our character. I want to be judged according to the content of my character. My race does not define me. That's not who I am. My race is just my ethnic makeup, but it's not who I am. I want to be judged by the content of my character. I don't want to be judged by my race. I want to be judged by the content of my... Get to know me. Get to know me first, and then judge me. That's what I say. Get to know me first, and then judge me. I hate stereotypes. I hate for somebody to look at me and automatically assume things because I'm a black woman. So stereotypes are ignorant. They're ignorant. I don't know. Maybe I might fit into some of the stereotypes. I don't know. But then at the end of the day, are we supposed to be judging people? Are we supposed to be talking about people? Are we supposed to be judging people? Because, like the Bible says, the same measure you be judged, you're judging the same measure you will be judged. So at the end of the day, we're not supposed to be judging anybody. So I just think that stereotypes are really stupid. They're ignorant. And just like, they're based on a lot of ignorance. Nobody's all of anything. You know, you have to take the time to get to know people before you judge them. You know, and you can't just say because you had bad experiences with a segment of the population, a few of those people, that the whole race is like that, or that whole segment of the population is like that, based on your perception and your experiences. Now, I can say that because of I've had some bad experiences with black men. I can say that all black men are deadbeats based on my experience. Well, because I'm an intelligent and a logical person, I'm not going to say that. Because I'm intelligent and I'm logical, I'm not going to say that all black men are this, all black men are that. I have enough common sense and I am intelligent enough and I'm logical enough to realize that not all black men fit into that category. And I've seen, good black men and all this type of stuff. So at the end of the day, we need to judge people by the content of their character. Judge people by the content of their character, and don't judge them according to some stupid stereotype, because it's not logical and it doesn't make any sense. And don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a book by its cover. Just because a person might look a certain way doesn't mean they are that way. Like sometimes we'll look at a person and we think, based on the way they look, we think they're A, B, and C. Well, you can't base they don't judge a book by its cover. You can't look at somebody and draw conclusions from that just by looking at them and saying, oh, they're this and they're that because of the way they look. Because looks can be deceiving. You can have a person dressed to the nines and look like, and they could be the most evil person on the earth, or they could be a criminal or whatever. But then you might have a person that's, not dressed, what you may perceive as dressed like a criminal, but or a low class person, and they might be a millionaire. So you never know. You never know. You can't judge a book by its cover. You can't go by how somebody looks. Like sometimes guys, when they see women wearing provocative, some women wear short skirts and dresses, and some women like to dress sexy, and then some guys, but they're not, they're not that kind of woman, but they just like to dress sexy. And some guys might look at them and say, well, they're, she's easy, or she's a prostitute, or she's this, or she's that. But she's just dressing sexy, but women have to kind of be modest in their dress because they don't want to be perceived a certain way, But if a guy looks at a woman and she's dressed provocatively, then he's going to have a certain perceptions about that woman based on how she's dressed, and she might not be like that at all. So we live in a sexist society, so. That's kind of sad. We live in a sexist society, so that's the way it's going to go down. So, you can't judge a book by its cover either, and that's being stereotypical too. You're basing their how they look on a perception of what you perceive. Stereotypes are just ignorant altogether. They're just ignorant. Or sometimes people say because a person is from a certain place. Like sometimes if a person is from a specific place, then people have preconceived notions or stereotypes based on the place where the person comes from. Like if someone comes from Detroit, you automatically hear someone's from Detroit. What is the first thing that pops into your head? There's a lot of good people in Detroit. A lot of good people in Detroit. They're not all criminals and all this kind of stuff. But when you hear someone's from Detroit, what's the first thing that pops in your head, I know some people from Detroit, and they're good people. So, that's stupid, to say, well, this person is from this state, a city, then there, that's stupid too. That's ignorance as well. Because a person comes from a certain place, it has no bearing on how they are as a person. You know, I mean, what I'm saying is, it depends on the person. Because you got good and bad people everywhere. You know, and so I just think the stereotypes are really really dumb. Like some black people say, um, um, all white people are racist, and all white people are not racist. Um, unless you can gather the statistical data to support your claim, unless you can have a statistical number or whatever to support your claim, then how do you know that all white people are racist? Did you take a poll or did you take a survey? But you would have to poll every white person in America to get those numbers. That's a lot. So you can't just say that off the top of your head. You can, but you sound ignorant. It sounds ignorant and it's not logical. No, all white people are not racist. They're not all racist. I know some good white people, and they're not all racist. So I've had to tell black people that. I was like, no, they're not all the same. So not. I always say nobody is all of anything. You know, and I know some black people have been through a lot. I've experienced the racism in my life. I've been through some stuff, and as black people, most majority of us have experienced a lot of racism in our lives. And sometimes it's hard for us. Sometimes it is hard to say, because sometimes, particularly if you've been experienced a lot of racism and stereotypes and everything like that, sometimes it's hard to say, okay, well, they're not all like that. But you gotta think. You have to think. You have to stop and think. Logically. And sometimes you have to look at things from a spiritual mindset too. Sometimes you have to look at things from a spiritual mindset. I know it's a lot going on right now with the police shootings and killings and all that stuff, and it's hard, and on top of the other racism that's going on top, because that's only one piece of the pie. The police killings is only one piece of the racial pie. There's other pieces of the racial pie. I like to look at it as an analogy of a pie. And there's other pieces to that pie. It's not just the police shootings and killings and everything, but there's other pieces to that racial pie. So it's the other racism that goes on as well. And it's a lot of black people are experiencing those things. It's sometimes hard to, you know, be able to have an open mind enough to say, okay, well, I'm going to judge each white person for the content of their character, and I'm not going to judge them according to the racist ones. I'm gonna get to know this person, and I'm gonna judge them according to the content of their character. And so sometimes you have to look at it things from a spiritual mindset as well to be able to do that, and a logical mindset as well. And so it takes a lot, because you have some black people that they done been through a lot. They done been through a lot. It's pretty sad. Like some black people say they've never met a decent white person in their life, and I think that's pretty sad. Because I know some good white people, and so, but it's pretty sad if you haven't ran into a decent white person. It's pretty sad, because they're out there. And they're not all the same. You got white people that's out there on the front lines, and with the Black Lives Matter crowd. I've seen them, and they're out there. So, are they racist too? If they are, what the heck they doing out there? So, even back in slavery, you had the Mormons. They were, when the slaves were going through the Underground Railroad, you had the Mormons. They were good Christian white folks, and they was helping the black people, with housing and things like that, get around, so they can escape. So even back then, you had good white people. It was just few and far between. But so you can't. It's just my point is is that stereotypes are stupid. Nobody is all of anything. You can't say that this segment of the population, all of them are like that. No, you can say it, but it's ignorant. You can say it if you want to, but it's not logical and it's ignorant. It's based on ignorance. Like white people, like there's some white people that think all black people, well, a lot of black, I ain't gonna say some white people, but a lot of white people think that all black people are criminals, and that's why the police shootings and everything is taking place. Well, it's based on ignorance. That's ignorant, and that's when stereotypes become deadly. When you can take it, be that stereotypical and stuff, and it's just ignorant. Because there's a lot of us law-abiding black people out here. And so, particularly if you're a police officer, I would think that they would train the police officers to be more open-minded. Don't be biased. I would think that that would be a part of their training, to train them to not be biased and to judge each individual according to the situation. And not, look at them as a certain way based on their race. So I think if police stations don't have that kind of training, I think that they need to start implementing that type of training, where they need to start training all across the country. They need to start training police officers to be more neutral, to be less biased. Don't be biased. Just, give people the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. We're going to pray about that though, people. I got some more good topics coming up. Stay tuned. Like and share and subscribe. Please subscribe. And this is Sweet June 2010. Peace and love. God bless.